All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Jeremy Clucci, Bowdoinham citizen, and I'm here with Nicole Briand, our town manager, and we're going to talk a little bit about town meeting. 2024 town meeting is Saturday, June 1st at 9 a.m. at the Bowdoinham Community School. Everybody's going to be there except me. I have to travel. I have to be out of town, but everybody else is going to be there. And part of why we haven't done this in a couple of years, Nicole, but it's good to be back with you. Part of why we did this with town meeting, I know that a ton of work and thought goes into preparing the warrant and the warrant articles that everyone is asked to vote on, but also everyone in town is busy, and often our first exposure to the warrant, including the budget, is at town meeting, and that can be a little bit overwhelming. So the goal here is for us to talk at kind of a high level, give an overview, hit the high points in a short video, and try to help people come in with a little bit of context. So Nicole, thanks for doing this.
Thank you for doing this with me again, Jeremy. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. We're going to start with the budget. So the big bottom line, I read the letter that you wrote in the annual report, and it was really helpful. And the bottom line is you're estimating no tax impact of this year's budget. That's a big deal. There are still some areas of growth, but can you talk about how that works out?
Yeah. So we do have an increase in our expense budget. However, we were able to offset that increase with an increase in our estimated revenues budget for a net zero budget increase. The three areas in which our estimated revenues are increasing are our homestead reimbursement. We were able to claim 100% on our certified ratio again this year to allow folks to get their full homestead exemption. We have more folks applying for their homestead exemption. We also have an increase in our investment income with our new savings account and then the biggest increase is with our municipal revenue sharing. That has been strong the last few years, and we've over collected, so we need to use that additional revenue for that line item for the upcoming budget. So we're able to offset the budget increases with our revenues.
Great, thanks. That's a helpful overview. I know employee wage adjustments have been a focus over the past several years, try and help bring our salaries more in line and competitive in a competitive hiring market with neighboring towns. And that's a piece of the increases that you just outlined. Can you just say more about that ongoing process, and in particular, given that this has been, maybe in particular a focus for this year, what are you focusing on? And also, have we as a town seen, what kind of returns have we seen on these, further investments in our employees?
Okay. So every year I look at Maine Municipal Association salary survey for this area to get an idea of where salaries are at. And my goal over the last 3 years is to get our employees to the median salary so that we are competitive. So this has been an ongoing process. The last few years, we were significantly behind. And this year, for our general office workers, the wage increase is not as substantial as it has been in the past. However, I found that our department heads were more significantly behind the median than our other workers. And then the other area in which we've had the most salary increases is with our public works department. As I'm sure people have seen, there's a shortage. All towns seem to be hiring public works. So that's an area where we're really trying to stay competitive with our neighbors so that we're able to hire and keep our employees. We have been able to hire with the new wages. Retention is going to be a matter of how things continue. I think it's an ongoing process just to make sure that we are not lagging too far behind. In today's workers' environment, folks don't seem to stay at jobs as long as they used to, which is really hurts the municipal jobs more than most, because I think it takes a good 2 to 3 years for employees to get really settled in and gain the experience to be to do their jobs well. And that seems to be that 3-year mark seems to be where a lot of employees are looking to change. So we really want to be able to keep our employees for a longer term because it takes so long for them to get fully trained.
That makes sense. Thanks. And also in the employee kind of category, this budget proposes a full-time fire chief. Can you just share a little bit about why that feels like an important investment for Bowdoinham to make right now?
So a few reasons for that is I think with the full-time chief, so right now we have an average of, we'll say 20 hours a week to, manage a department, manage volunteers, do all the paperwork involved. And I think there's changes that seem to happen on an ongoing basis. And we need to stay up with a lot of that changes. It requires more paperwork, more oversight, more rules. So our fire chief needs more time to stay up with that. We also have a new contract with Lisbon Emergency coming up for this upcoming year. As part of that, the goal is to form an interlocal agreement with Lisbon, Bowdoin, and us for ambulance service. So that would be the fire chief serving on that committee and working on that. We do have a new committee for emergency medical services that he is staffing. Our fire chief is also our emergency management director. So keeping all our emergency management plans updated, current, and he is also the point person for when there is damage. So having that baseline so that we can submit those applications when there's damages from storms so that we can get reimbursed for that work. So the job has been growing, and I think we're going to see a lot more in the future. And there seems to be a lot of communities moving more in that direction as we move forward because of those changes.
Thanks. Thanks. Looking elsewhere in the budget too, there are a number of small-ish increases in a number of departments and actually a drop in the solid waste and recycling budget. Can you talk about what's driving that?
So with solid waste and recycling, we installed that new compacting dumpster. So that is dropping the number of hauls significantly. We pay this upcoming contract is going to be like $430 per haul. So now we're hauling once a month instead of 3-4 times a month. So that's where that savings is in the hauling. And also we're changing where we're hauling to. We've contracted with Casella in the past, and we're going to be moving to Maine Waste Energy. And so we're seeing a savings with that contract as well. So that's where the bulk of those savings are. So we're able to do wage adjustments, but with those two contracts, we're able to have a budget reduction in that area.
All right, thanks. That's helpful overview. What else is included in the budget that is noteworthy that people should be aware of this year?
So I think one of the things people are going to just notice because of the percentages for our animal control and harbor master department, that's showing almost a 40% increase. It's just under $11,000. And that really is we're moving the funding for our navigational no-wake aids from our maintenance department to this department because it is our harbor master that handles our navigational no-wake aids. And then we do have funding increases for those departments. It looks like a large percentage, but it's because it's a small budget. So the increases aren't as great as the percentage makes it seem.
And how about anything in capital reserves you wanted to touch on?
So capital reserves, we are proposing the same budget as last year, 650,000. 350 would be used for road paving this upcoming summer. And then 300,000 is going into reserves as designated for future projects. And so this has been something we started over the last few years, is trying to, developing our reserve account so that we're saving money for our bigger future projects so we don't have to bond. So we're putting $20,000 away a year to go towards a new truck purchase or other larger items. So we're trying to reduce what we're going to have to borrow in the future. And I think the biggest step in that is paying for the road paving on an annual basis opposed to bonding it. Unfortunately, our roads have fallen behind, so we are in a catch-up mode, but we're making some really good progress, and I hope people will see those improvements and appreciate those as we're moving forward. It'll be a busy year of paving in Bowdoinham this summer.
I bet. That's Maine though, I guess, in terms of road maintenance. All right, so that's helpful overview of the budget articles, and just looking at the rest of the warrant, I have just a couple other questions. One is the comprehensive plan is on this year's warrant, and I think it's been a decade since that was the case. Can you just share a little bit about that?
Yep, so the previous comprehensive plan was adopted in 2014. It is, the state wants you to have an updated comprehensive plan every 10 years. The carrot they give you to do that is it helps when you're submitting grant applications if you have a current comp plan. So we've had a committee that's been working for 3 years on this comprehensive plan update to get it ready for town meeting this year. The comprehensive plan really is a high-level overview plan that has a lot of recommendations. If you go back to the 2014 comp plan, you'll see that we weren't able to accomplish all of them. It's a big plan with a lot in it. We have committees that work on taking on some of those tasks. I think it's important to note that if there's something in the comprehensive plan that people don't like, the plan is much larger than one recommendation, and any future ordinances would have to go to a town meeting for approval. And most of the, recommendations, there's another process involved beyond just the comprehensive plan itself.
It's really a vision, right? Thanks. You mentioned ordinance changes. There are 2 on the warrant. Can you just touch on those?
Yep, so I believe Article 4, there are those ordinance changes include changes to district requirements. That is the article that the select board has recommended not pass. I think there's varied reasons on the board for that. But
chance for discussion at the meeting.
Yeah, so I think there's, but they did decide to put it forward to the voters to review it, have the discussion, and make a determination on that. And then the second is, I believe, Article 5, which is our annual, I'll say, ordinance cleanup. Most of it is renumbering, word changes, updating references, and so forth. So that's kind of what I think folks are used to seeing on an annual basis.
Thanks, that's helpful. I skipped over Article 3, I realize. Proposed changes to is it the CMP Riverfront TIF?
Yes, so the proposed changes for that. So we have the CMP Riverfront TIF was originally adopted in 2014. It was amended last year to extend it from a 20-year TIF to a 30-year TIF. And this year's amendment really accomplishes 3 big program changes, in that it allows the funding to be used for the renovation of town hall for economic development purposes. So looking at, sales for businesses, pop-up sales, doing art shows. And so so we can use that funding to help for the town hall. And I think part of it is going to be developing what uses we want to have there so that we have the infrastructure at that facility to support them. The other thing that we can do, there was a change in the law that allows when you're renovating or doing a new municipal office, you can have your TIF can pay for up to half of that. So as you know, the town was looking at doing a renovation here. We didn't get any bids. So I think the town is going to have to address what it wants to do with this building, municipal offices in the future. This amendment in the TIF would allow the TIF to pay up to 50% of that cost, which would mean that we could borrow half of what was planned. And then the other is specifically for the yellow building. We call it the yellow riverfront building, down by the waterfront with the redevelopment of the park, looking at what the future of that building can be and redeveloping that for a higher economic development purpose.
Thanks. Good overview. All right, two other questions. One is Article 7, which is one of the capital improvement articles, and the communications tower. And I saw the select board didn't make a recommendation there. Can you just talk a little bit about that one?
Yep. So the town's been approached to put a cell tower at the fire department. The select board has done some preliminary negotiations. The lease would require town meeting approval. So at this point, the board is asking the town for, basically authorization to continue negotiations and sign a lease. The select board did not make a recommendation because they really want to hear what the residents want to see. Are they interested in this or not? And how does the town want to move forward? There's been some talks about where it's located, having it in the village, what the impacts would be. And I think that it's a broader discussion to be had. Not doing it in the town doesn't necessarily, on town property doesn't preclude it to being somewhere else in the area, because the cell carrier really wants service coverage for this village area. But I think it's important to note the lease is listed as a 5-year lease, yet there's a mandatory 7 years extension, 7 times extension so it'd be really a 40-year lease. So that really needs to be a discussion with the community to see, if this is something we want to commit to.
And then the fire truck, I see there's a bonding proposal for a fire truck. Engine 2 is long in the tooth. What's the story on that one?
So engine 2 is a 2002 fire truck. In our capital improvement plan, we're looking at replacing it at 25-year life for the fire truck. So this is something that we've been discussing, I believe, for the last 2 years. And there's a committee who's been working on getting more details on the fire truck and the specifications of what it would be. The lag time for fire trucks and from order to receiving after COVID was 2 years. That time frame has reduced recently, and the costs from COVID had gone up. We were just a year or two ago looking at $1 million truck. Those costs have come back down to the 750. However, as with everything, we expect the cost to start going back up in the future. So it's, if we were to order a truck now, if it's 2 years out, we'd be getting it at the 25-year mark. But if the manufacturer's time frame, we'd be getting it a little sooner. The other thing is we do have another engine that is our attack engine, and trying to get a little more distance in time frame between its replacements, so we're not having to have 2 big replacements too close together. So I'm trying to space out our equipment purchases to help steady our debt service in the long term.
All right, thanks for that overview. And for those capital improvement articles, and for all the ones that are, kind of complex, just a reminder, like town meeting is a great place for people to bring those questions, and there will be people there who can help try and provide some answers.
Yep. And so we do have all the warrant along with the budget, and we do have some informational sheets on the website. They are in the town meeting events page.
You go to the calendar and click on June 1st.
And then you'll see all of those documents. And town meeting starts at 9 a.m. So encourage people to show up a little early so that we can get started as close to 9 as possible.
Great. All right. Well, thanks for making the time to talk through it with me, and good luck on June 1st. And if anyone has questions ahead of town meeting, bowdoinham.com probably has the answers, or you can call the town office.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yep.